I have finally read the Winds of Winter preview chapters in the A Song of Ice and Fire series by George R.R. Martin. And now I wish I hadn't because it makes me want to read the whole book even more, but it's not released. Yet. I have hope that at some point in my lifetime I might be able to read the full book of Winds of Winter. I think we can safely assume that A Dream of Spring is never coming out. We can't lie to ourselves. It will never be released. The sooner we accept that, the sooner we can move forward with our lives. However, I have a little bit of hope that Winds of Winter might at some point be released. Is that stupid of me? Am I being delusional here? Please feel free to leave me a comment and let me know if I'm being really silly. Anyway, I read the preview chapters that are available for Winds of Winter, and here are my thoughts and opinions on them. So there aren't that many chapters available online, and they don't delve into the story too much, which makes sense. Why would he just spoil the whole book? He's obviously not going to do that, is he? But the chapters that are available set the foundations for future events and future storylines, and it just got me so excited. And it's a bit soul-destroying that I can't read any more about it now. It teased me. It got me really involved in the events, and then it ends abruptly because there are no more chapters available to read. So that was a hard process to go through. But what doesn't kill you does sometimes make you stronger, and this is a perfect example of that. I will also put timestamps in the description box, so if there's a specific chapter that you want to hear me talk about, then hopefully I will discuss it and you can just go straight to that part of the video. And FYI, there will be spoilers here. Proceed with caution. Theon's chapter. This was an interesting one. So it is set directly after he escaped the Boltons with Jane Poole, who is currently impersonating Arya Stark, only for him to then be kept as a prisoner by Stannis Baratheon. So he escapes the imprisonment of one prick to then be imprisoned by another one. However, I do like Stannis a lot more than Ramsay Bolton. I think that is obvious. One of them is a lot more cruel and evil than the other, and it is not Stannis. So the events of this chapter are where Theo is warning Stannis about Bolton marching north to start a war with him. And there's also a little bit trickled into there where Asha is trying to buy Theon back, although unsuccessfully so far. However, Stannis does portray that he has a bit more control. He's quite wise. So for example, he does know that the Karstarks are betraying him. He's not being ignorant or disillusioned to these, like he is fully aware of what is going on. So other than that, not a whole lot happens in that chapter, but it is quite helpful just to see where Theon is currently at. And now the only thing that I felt like after reading that chapter, although it was brilliantly written and it was really interesting, is that I now don't really care what happens to Theon. Like at the end of A Dance of Dragons, I was kind of wondering, where's he gonna end up? Where is his storyline gonna take him? He's had a lot of torture, but now he has jumped off the side of the castle with Jane Poole and is trying to escape. Where's he gonna end up? So now I know where he ends up. I'm now no longer interested in his storyline. I wasn't that interested in Theon to begin with in the whole series, apart from when he started to be so tortured that he believed that he was Reek. That was a very juicy, very interesting storyline, so entertaining to read. But now that that is over and done with, and we're looking at Theon coming out the other side, trying to relearn who he is and how to be a person again, now he's doing that, I'm no longer interested in him. I'm sorry. But I am interested in the Boltons and Stannis storyline, and Theon obviously has set up the foundation for that storyline, so it's really crucial that he had that chapter and that we get to see the storyline unfold from his perspective, because he is the only point of view character that is involved in that situation. So for that, he is a very important character. I'm just not that fussed about him anymore. We also did see a little bit around Asha Greyjoy in this chapter, which was cool because I quite like her. And she's obviously aware of the torture that her brother has been through, and she's trying to buy him back now. There's not a lot of sibling love between the two, but it's almost like she feels like maybe it's her duty to take him back into her control or to her care, just to take a little bit of ownership over him and a bit of accountability for what happens to him. I also wonder how long Jane Poole is going to pose as Arya for. Like, where's that going to end up? when does that storyline end and how is it going to end? So that's a really interesting one that I'm excited to see unfold. The next chapter that I read is probably my favourite out of the whole of the Winds of Winter chapters, and this was the one by Mercy/Arya. Arya is actually one of my favourite characters right from the very first book, A Game of Thrones. And this chapter is just incredibly written. So it's written from the perspective of Mercy for the whole time, right up until the final few lines where it then switches back to Arya again. And the only time that the identity switches from Mercy to Arya is when Arya has made her kill. It was such a good chapter and so well written. So it's as though Arya takes on a new identity every time she assassinates somebody. And it's like no matter how many different identities she takes on, she is always Arya again after she has made her kill. And she can just switch like that. Like the perspective of Mercy and Arya trying to be and embody Mercy. Literary genius. She's also fueled with revenge. Obviously, we're aware that every night before she goes to sleep, she's like telling the gods all of these names of the people that she wants justice for. And that is only going to continue because she's Arya and she's so determined. One thing that I particularly loved about this chapter as well is the descriptive writing. So the way that George R.R. Martin is describing all the fog in the city and the canals and the really eerie vibe. I love a good piece of descriptive writing, and I love when the writing style is very beautiful, like the way that he has written about the city and what Arya can see and her perspectives. It flows really well. It's really beautiful writing. And I just worship that chapter with every fibre of my being. It was great. That was my favourite chapter that I read out of all of the Winds of Winter chapters. And I love Arya, I love her whole character, and I'm excited to see how her storyline continues now that she is a badass assassin. Next we have a chapter by Alayne/Sansa, another one with two identities and another Stark. Sansa's chapter wasn't that eventful. She's mainly just updating us on her life and where she's currently at. And it was nice to read a chapter by her where there is not an immense amount of torture or hardship going on. It was actually a pretty nice, peaceful chapter, all things considered. There was talk around trying to find a husband, trying to court somebody. There's also a tourney that's going on. It seems like she's made a friend. Obviously, because it is a Song of Ice and Fire, I'm expecting at some point that that friend is going to betray her, or the friend is going to die, something like that. You can't have a friend for very long in a Song of Ice and Fire, but it's just finally a Sansa chapter that is not completely miserable. And that was nice. That was refreshing to read. I can guarantee it will not be long-lived, so I am enjoying it whilst I can. And it's just nice to know that she is okay for the time being until Winds of Winter is fully released. And that's basically Sansa's chapter in a nutshell. Wasn't too much going on. So next up we have two chapters by Arianne. I'm pretty sure that's how the name is pronounced. Correct me if I am wrong, please. So she is the heir to Dawn. She's made the decision to travel to Storm's End despite barely having any knights with her, which is probably a very silly idea, let's be honest, because she has heard that a battle is starting over there in order for the new revelation of Aegon to go and claim the Iron Throne. So we had that revelation in A Dance with Dragons that young Griff is actually Aegon Targaryen and therefore is in line to take the Iron Throne. So Arianne wants to go over there to see for herself whether or not he is a true Targaryen. In the first chapter that I read by her, she is currently unaware that her brother Quentyn has actually been burnt by a dragon. He has obviously travelled to go and see Daenerys Targaryen and see if he can wed her. However, he did get burnt. We had seen that in the previous book. Arianne is currently unaware of that, so she's kind of questioning what's he up to, where's he at? And I felt like her chapters are plot building. Again, they're not massively eventful, not that much happens, but we get a lot of information about what is going on, like what's about to happen. A lot of foreshadowing, I feel like, in her chapters. And then we have Arianne's second chapter, where there's a bit more mention of Jon Connington, which again I feel like is a lot of plot building and foreshadowing. Again, Arianne is questioning whether or not her brother Quentyn is going to return home. Spoiler alert, he won't. And interestingly, this is the first speculation that I've seen that young Griff may not actually be Aegon Targaryen. It's a theory that I hadn't really heard about, but then when I did more research into it, there's actually a lot of other people out there who do believe that theory or think that that is going to be a plot in Winds of Winter, that young Griff is not actually Aegon Targaryen and is an imposter. So that's going to be quite interesting to see what's going to happen there, because I just assumed that he was going to be a Targaryen and therefore there was going to be this big battle and this big conflict because he is somebody else who could have claim to the Iron Throne. But if he's not actually a Targaryen, how are they going to work that out and what is that going to do? There's many different routes that that plot can take, and I'm very excited to see which one George R.R. Martin has chosen. And with A Song of Ice and Fire, we always need to expect the unexpected. So in this chapter we have Daemon Sand, who has told Arianne that young Griff must be an imposter because he saw Gregor Clegane bash Aegon Targaryen's head against the wall when he was a babe. Obviously Aegon Targaryen is not going to survive that at that age, or any age, therefore he must be dead, according to Daemon Sand. So that's the first theory, that young Griff might not be Aegon, but that's just word of mouth as well. Who's to say that that didn't happen and that he actually did survive? We also have a chapter by Victarion. Not much happened at all. In fact, I tried to write some notes down whilst I was reading the chapter, and there wasn't really that much for me to write. He has a horn that he thinks will win him the Iron Throne. That's about it. Again, it was plot building, I think, but there wasn't that much interesting for me to pick up on. However, we also have a chapter by The Forsaken, which is Aeron Damphair's perspective, and this was a very good chapter and a very important one as well. So this is progressing the Crow's Eye Euron Greyjoy storyline, which we got a little bit more progress with in A Dance with Dragons, but it is only going to unravel further in Winds of Winter, and I think this is going to be one of the key storylines and the key plots for that book. And if Winds of Winter is ever released, I will be so excited to read about that. The Crow's Eye is a cruel, evil man, and it will be very scary if he gets into power. He is torturing priests for some reason, and unfortunately Damphair is one of those that is being tortured. But it does show how far people are willing to go to get the Iron Throne, and he's basically just killing and torturing people left, right and centre, because why not? There's also a huge religious theme in this chapter as well, and it's interesting to see that different people worship different gods, and it's bringing us back to that theme of religion and how much are the gods actually influencing the events that happen, because Aeron's drowned god has all of a sudden gone very silent whilst he is being tortured. Is that a message? Is that a sign from the god, or does that god not particularly exist? How much is religion and faith influencing the events that happen? And that's a theme that I feel like is highlighted here. Religion has always been an underlying theme in A Song of Ice and Fire, but I feel like in this chapter, it really narrowed in on that, really focused on that and brought that theme back to the forefront again. And that was a really interesting perspective to read from. I highly enjoyed that. Something I've not really thought about in a while, that all of these different people and all of these different houses do have their different gods. So who do you guys think is more evil? Ramsay Bolton or Euron Greyjoy? Let me know your thoughts on that. I feel like Euron Greyjoy is going to be more evil on a wider scale. I feel like Euron Greyjoy has the ability to impact more people with his cruelty. Interesting discussion there. There's also apparently 2 chapters that were released by Barristan, Selmy and Tyrion, which I really wanted to read, but I couldn't find them anywhere other than on really dodgy websites that I didn't feel comfortable clicking on. And to be honest, I think the websites I went on are not even the actual chapters. I think it was just people's like fanfics. So I haven't got anything to comment about on those. I did do a bit of research regarding what happened, and apparently not that much does happen. Again, I think it's like plot building, setting the foundations for what could happen in the rest of Winds of Winter. I haven't got much to comment on those, but I do love both of those characters. They're both very honourable characters. Tyrion's perspectives are always written from a very witty, non-serious approach. although he has changed a little bit since murdering his father and Shay. So we'll just have to wait to see what else happens with those characters. So those are all the chapters that I believe, to my knowledge, are released so far for Winds of Winter. I feel like this is a good amount to get us excited for what could happen, but still not being able to predict the events and making us want to read it without completely spoiling everything. So I think it was good. Well worth a read if you've not read them already. And I can't wait to read Winds of Winter, and hopefully I will be able to at some point in this lifetime, but if not this one, then the next. And I just want to put a disclaimer out there as well that I have accepted this series will never be finished, and that is fine. It's a bit annoying that it's not going to be finished, but there's no point living with annoyance. So the better option is just to accept it and move on, and that is what I'm doing. So that is my review of the Winds of Winter preview chapters in A Song of Ice and Fire. I hope you enjoyed that. If you've read them, please let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. I would love to keep the conversation going. Or if you have any feedback on this video, then again, please let me know in the comments. I'd really appreciate that. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, make sure to give it a thumbs up to let me know that you did. And if you enjoy my content and you want to see more from me, then please subscribe, because it's free and it means that you can see my videos a lot easier. I will see you next time, or rather you'll see me, and I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye for now.